Okay, I think we can start slowly but surely. So my name is Stefan Kolibar. I'm Chief Partnerships Officer at BONARD, and I'm happy to be introducing the session to you. Together with me, I'd like to introduce my co-presenter and colleague, Roberto Diniz, who is our marketing manager and our digital marketing specialist. Roberto.
Hi, everyone. Such a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Pleasure is ours indeed. I hope that we will have a productive session. I encourage everyone to put your questions into a chat or a Q&A section. We will have a Q&A at the very end of the presentation or of the webinar today. The presentation should take approximately around 30 plus minutes. We hope together with Roberto that we will not bore you. Quite the opposite. We try to prepare the slides that are full of practical real life examples how you as educators can drive your digital marketing strategy and channels efficiently. Again, using the examples that we were able to gather either recently or over the years. Good. So I think we can start with the first slide. Just before we jump on a topic, very briefly about the company. If you can move the slide, please. Yeah. So just very briefly about BONARD, and then we are on a topic. So for those who don't know us, we are a global company with 4 offices across the globe, 3 in Europe, 1 in China. We have 56 specialists, researchers, analysts, and recruitment solutions experts across our teams, and we've successfully delivered over 500 projects to date. We have 2 arms. BONARD is specializing on international education and student housing or student accommodation. This is a session for international education providers. So for those we basically help and assist with our knowledge and connections that we've collected over the 15 years of our existence, with helping with data, research, strategic advisory, as well as recruitment solutions. We do and organize a lot of events, or a lot of type of events, such as trade missions, fam tours, press tours. We also organize individual sales trips for educators to source markets, and we also do digital marketing campaigns. And final word here, this is just a snapshot of some of the brands that I believe you already know, that we've been partnering with so far. We can say on the slide, Roberto, if you can move ahead. So today's presentation will be split into 5 parts. Roberto and I will be switching. I'll start with a macro strategy, then Roberto will try to explain how to implement the strategy successfully. Then we'll have a look at suitable channels, communication and sales channels, again using some practical examples and case studies from our recent campaigns. Then Roberto again will look at the factors affecting conversions, and finally we will have a look at, or we will sum it up with some do's and don'ts of digital marketing. One important thing for the presentation is that we've prepared this with a focus on how to set up the strategy using the practical tips and tricks. We haven't focused that much on particular digital marketing platforms. Of course, we will touch it, but again, today's session is mostly about understanding the strategy behind and the basics of it. And of course, there might be another session, or later on we can organize something else for being or bringing more examples on the channels. So without further ado, let's start with the macro strategy. So here, if you can move to the next slide, Roberto, please. Here we have just a selection of not online, but student recruitment channels. These are not the only ones. You know very well as educators that which ones you use and you can use. But we consider over the years of working on these projects that and with our partners, that these are the most relevant ones, most relevant student recruitment channels. And digital marketing certainly is one of the most dynamically growing ones, but also one that we find, again, from our work for many institutions across the sectors, whether it's higher education, K-12, language, etc., that it might be also quite tricky. And it is important to be on the same page, to understand, to have the same understanding of what that particular institution or organization, education provider is looking for. So we can move to another slide. Indeed, so this is just a different angle of how we can look at digital marketing and what it can do for educator. So it's not just one of a mostly used student recruitment channels, but it also can be actually part of the other student recruitment channels as a precursor or something that precedes the activities that are listed here. So you can efficiently, for example, organize virtual or in-person fairs if you use digital marketing before to generate a pool of prospective students and their parents to come to your fair, whether it's online or in person, or to an open day, of course. But you can also use it before your local representative in a source market reaches out to, again, your agent partners or prospective students. Let's move on. Now, this is one of the core things for today, and this is based on, again, years of experience that we split digital marketing campaigns to three. The first is brand awareness campaign, second is lead generation, and then event-driven campaign, which is a bit of a sub-campaign or subtype of the lead generation campaign. Let me explain. The brand awareness campaign is something that that educators, no matter what kind of education provider it is, use mostly for three reasons. It is either to strengthen your position in an existing market by spreading your name, your offerings, etc. Second, to support your new product or service in either existing or new markets. And there's also a third one, which is basically to use it for reinforcing or repositioning your brand. For example, if you recently rebranded. That's the brand awareness campaign, and this is the goal and target of any brand awareness campaign. We've done many of them, typically, usually, mostly for associations across the sectors, but also for other types of institutions. The brand awareness campaigns are great, but what they don't do necessarily is that they generate leads. So they don't bring a lot. So they can bring traffic to your website, to your program offering, but they will not necessarily end up with you receiving a lot of prospective students inquiries in your inboxes or CRMs. For that purpose, there is lead generation campaign that focuses on generating qualified leads. Roberto will talk about a little bit more later today. That already brings focus on generating the actual numbers of prospective students for your institution, with which you can further work. What is important about a lead generation campaign, of course, it might be a little bit more budget consuming because you receive direct inquiries. But what is important is to have resources available, not just financial ones, but also in terms of staff availability, internal processes, integration with your softwares and platforms that you use, your CRMs, your application, database management systems, etc., so that you can efficiently and timely follow up with the leads that are generated, with the students who are inquiring. We've learned over the years that, again, this is one of the crucial things that, if done timely and in a right way, then education providers hugely benefit from this type of campaign. Finally, there is an event-driven campaign, which, as I mentioned, is a bit of a sub-campaign or subtype of the lead generation campaign that has one specific focus, and it is to generate students or parents, so leads, in other words, to an event, which could be in person or virtual, online, webinar, for example, where these students or parents would receive further information. So unlike in lead generation campaign, where you advertise and promote your school, your program offering, etc., your current students in full during that campaign, and then you receive the inquiry. In event-driven campaign, you focus specifically on that event. You create a pool of registrants, just like we did for today's webinar, and then using the webinar, you can again quite efficiently and successfully promote your whatever you wish. It could be your program offering, new product, new service, etc., or new campus, for example. So these are the three types of campaigns that we in our work use, and we switch a lot based on the needs of our partners. And these are the differences between them and what they can do and what they can't do. Okay, now I think we are onto another part of the presentation, and I give word to Roberto.
Just to wrap up this part, I would like to call our first poll. We will try to make this presentation as interactive as possible. So we would like to ask my colleague to launch the first poll that is related to the strategy concerning developing a digital marketing campaign. So we have a question for you. So how do you develop your digital marketing campaign? You have 4 options here. First one, you have a specialized team. The second one, that you contract a third-party company. And the third option is that you haven't carried out any digital marketing campaign yet, but you're planning to. And the last option is that you haven't carried out any digital marketing campaign and you don't have any plans here. So let's give a few more seconds before we wrap it up. So yes, well, most of you have a specialized team. So on the one hand, this is a very good solution. On the other hand, it may create some challenges because some views tend to be a little bit biased, and sometimes when you have an external view could help you, but on the other hand, the greatest benefit of having a specialized team is that everyone knows about the programs, the strategies, the unique selling points, so this can create some very good internal synergies. Okay. So now let's move on to the second part of the presentation. So in this part here, well, as we now understand the importance and the role of digital marketing in the student recruitment process, and we have identified the different types of campaigns, let's discuss the key steps for creating a successful campaign. So that's what we'll see in the next slides here. Okay. Here on this slide, we have an example of a successful digital marketing campaign roadmap consisting of 4 essential stages. So the first stage here is establishing the persona. Okay? So knowing your target audience is the first step in a successful digital marketing campaign. So are you speaking with students? Are you speaking with parents? What habits do they have? Where do they find information? What are their pain points? Okay, so this is about the persona. The second step here is devising a digital marketing strategy. Now that you know your audience, it's time to choose the channels, the narrative, the unique selling points you will be highlighting during the campaign. Next, we move on to the third topic, which is the execution itself. An action plan here is needed, detailing all the steps to be carried out. In this phase, we ask ourselves what will be done, where, when, and how much, if it's applicable. Okay. And the fourth stage is crucial. It's converting leads into enrollments. Okay. And we will be discussing shortly what strategies can be employed to maximize conversion. Here, before we move on, I would like to ask you the second poll question, and I would like you to be honest, okay? So how do you organize the strategy implementation of your campaign? So my colleague will now show the second poll question. So based on your experience so far, what is the sequence? What are the two first elements that you use to define a successful digital marketing campaign? Like digital, the first option is the channel and the strategy. The second one is the channel and the persona. The third one is the persona and the strategy. Fourth is the budget and the strategy, or you think that there is no recommended sequence here? I think we can now see the results. I'll ask my colleague to show them. Okay. So here, almost half of the participants have answered that persona and strategy. Yeah, so it's very important to know who we'll be talking to, then to start with the strategy and the next points. Okay. Moving on now. Here, well, one of the key points here for conversion from leads to enrollments and from leads to qualified leads. Here we are sharing a practical example, okay, from an institute. So here I will be highlighting the main points, okay? You will see that it's a comprehensive landing page. There are several elements, and I'll try to provide some explanations here, okay? So on the top of the page here, there is a form used to collect data from prospective students or parents. So this form should be tailored to your institution needs, okay? For example, I've seen some institutions asking if students will need some financial aid. The other institutions ask about, for example, the language proficiency of the student. So this form should be tailored to your needs. Okay. Here we also see a clear call to action, which is download the brochure. You will see that this call to action will be repeated other parts of this landing page. Okay, moving on to the second part of the landing page, we see something here that I really like using in digital marketing. It's called the sense of urgency. Okay, so in this case, it's about the application date. Okay, other ideas for creating a sense of urgency include the deadline for scholarships is on a specific day, or there will be no enrollment fee for applications until a specific date. So these are some other examples, okay? The next point I would like to highlight here is the clear pricing information and the easy payment terms. This is extremely important when a parent or a student is searching for a program. So if this information is clear here, you are more likely to convert this lead. Okay. On this page, we also see two other CTAs, two call to actions. Download the brochure again, okay? And there are two other key points I would like to highlight here, okay? First, a strong narrative and also the unique selling points of this institution being displayed with the aid of icons here. It's at the bottom of this slide. This is very good to summarize information and to draw the reader's attention. On the next slide, you will see a detailed program syllabus, okay? And now here we see a different focus. So from this point on, the human element receives more attention. Like you see the faces, you cannot see the faces here because they are blurred naturally, but you know what I mean. You can see the faces of faculty members and students providing testimonials, okay? And then on top of this, we see some other unique selling points about these institutions. These unique selling points reinforce the caliber of this program. Next slide, you see some additional information about the program and another CTA, like, are you still in doubt whether this institution wants you to download the brochure? I don't think so, okay? So it's very clear here. The call to action is very clear here. Download the brochure, okay? And what I would also like to highlight here is there are 3 opportunities for the student or parents to interact with the human, okay? So this is really important. So if the student wants, they can schedule a call, they can call a number directly or interact with someone via email. So it's very important to add these interaction channels. We will be discussing them on the next slides, but this has to be, not this has to be, but ideally, this should be here on the landing page. Well, on the previous slides, you saw a testimonial. It was like a written testimonial, but we also have some success cases of video testimonials. And here I have selected the testimonial page of an association of boarding schools that has done, I would consider, an outstanding work with testimonials. So one of the unique selling points of this association is the multiculturalism present in their programs. And this is reinforced not only by the text here that you see on the left, but also on the videos, like from several nationalities. So students from several nationalities sharing their experiences, both in English and in their native language. Okay, so like you see here, like Brazil, Canada, Germany, Kazakhstan, Korea, Mexico. So I really like the way that these testimonials are displayed and the connection between the strategy and the implementation. Well, before this slide here, before I show you this slide here, I would like to ask you another question. I would like my colleague to launch the 3rd poll question. This has to do with online reputation. So it's the next topic that we will be talking about. Does your institution regularly check its online reviews on Google and other specialized platforms dedicated to student enrollment or student reviews? And we have 4 options here. No, never. Yes, sometimes. 3rd option is yes. Yes, always, but we don't respond to them. Or the 4th option is yes, always, and we always reply to them. So let's give a few more seconds before you see the results. So yes, we can now see the results. My colleague is showing them. Okay, so 44% of the respondents never check their online reviews. And then we have 26 and 26, yes, sometimes, and yes, we always reply to them. So there is a clear division here. On the next slide, we will be talking about the importance of the online reputation before launching digital marketing campaign. So here we have two examples of institution 1 and institution 2. Okay, so institution 1 has 2.0 star review with 18 reviews, and institution 2 has 4.5 stars out of 5. Okay, and then you can also see the reviews that are the comments that are under here. So my question to you is, what kind of impression do you think that a prospective student or parent will have if they see the reviews from institution 1 or institution 2? Okay, so this is the first question that I would like you to ask, and some food for thought. I can reassure you that a digital marketing campaign would have a lot of difficulty converting leads for institution 1, okay, based on these reviews and based on the comments, okay? And I would also like to ask you, would you hire a service from a professional or from an institution with such low review? So this is something that this is some thought, okay? Because we as consumers, if you're going to a doctor, you check the reviews. If you're buying a product, you're checking the reviews, and you're also checking. You're checking not only the stars, but you're checking also the comments. So we are always doing that, and parents and students do this. Okay, so you should always keep an eye on your online reputation, and we advise you to interact with students and parents, because, well, we know that nobody's perfect. There are some issues, people make mistakes, but it's always important to be close to parents and students and providing feedback and showing that you care about what they say, and if there is any issue, you can address it, okay? Have developed a summary of the steps we need to take to successfully develop a digital marketing strategy. Two important notes here, okay? For every step that you take, you need to contemplate who, where, when, and how much, okay? So we have selected here 10 steps. It starts with the media assets, for example, which pictures, which videos do you need? Second point, if the people who are developing the social media campaign have access to the platforms, believe it or not, we have encountered several difficulties with this because some Facebook pages did not have an admin, or it was someone who didn't work for the institution anymore. This was very problematic, okay? The third step is the ad text, and then the translations, if necessary. We always advise schools to use local language because depending on the market, parents do not speak English, or sometimes if you're talking about language programs, some students may have some difficulties in understanding your narrative. Step number 5 is the landing page creation, and then campaign setup, campaign start, lead follow-up, application follow-up, and post-enrollment follow-up. Here, we made a difference between lead follow-up and application follow-up because although they may seem similar, are different actions and different approaches for this. For example, something that I would like to share with you is especially in big digital marketing campaigns, you receive a lot of leads, and then institutions should find a way to sort these leads into qualified leads and not so qualified leads. And how can you do this? with the aid of a CRM, okay? With a good CRM, you can see those, for example, who have opened your emails, those who have registered for a webinar, or even those leads that have shown interest in a program where you need to intensify your recruitment actions. Practically speaking, you should know the low-hanging fruit and give more attention to them, okay? So, for example, especially the phase 9 application follow-up, there should be more human element there, you know. You should be interacting with your prospective students, should be explaining, should be showing that you are there, that you're close to them. So this will increase the conversion rate. And we can also see this process from a sales funnel perspective. If you work with marketing, you're very familiar with this sales funnel. Okay, so we start with the larger number of leads at the top of the funnel. And as we move down the funnel, we progress to a smaller number of qualified leads who have shown a higher level of interest and engagement. Then we have those who have converted to application, taking a concrete step towards enrollment. And finally, at the bottom of the funnel, we have the actual enrollments, which represent the ultimate goal of the recruitment process. Okay? This visualization of this, like the visualization of this funnel, helps illustrate the importance of targeting, nurturing, and converting leads at each stage of the funnel to achieve a higher enrollment rate.
Thank you, Roberto. Here I will take over. We will have a look at the suitable channels, again, communication and sales channels that we consider important to take into build them within your strategies. First, we'll start with a slide where we'll see, if you can move, where we will see the penetration or the usage of particular communication channels per country. These are rather communication channels than actual digital marketing platforms, but they do, of course, overlap. And many of you know that you could actually do paid advertising or PPC campaigns also via these communication platforms, not just PPC platforms per se. So they're being integrated together, and there are full ecosystems like Google or Facebook or Meta these days offer. One thing here, what is important to acknowledge, to understand, is that while in most of the countries you can have a good solid result using Facebook or WhatsApp as a communication channel, there are local differences and there are exceptions, such as China. We know that there you have to do your communication as well as your digital marketing campaign through WeChat and several other platforms that are completely different to what the rest of the world is using. It's similar with Kakao in Korea. It's similar with some other messengers that are in some of these countries, particularly in Asia Pacific. So this is important to bear in mind. While we are on this slide, I will just mention that when it comes to digital marketing platforms, again, the focus of today's presentation is not on them, but just to slightly touch on that topic, we of course categorize these pay-per-click platforms to sort of 3 categories. It is search engine, display or display networks, and social media. And there are, of course, several, again, platforms across each of them I already mentioned. But again, more on that probably in another webinar, for example. Let's now move on to another slide where we'll use one, I think, interesting example of how educators can use their current students to support the results of digital marketing campaigns to bring more new students. In this particular case, there was a education provider that allowed current students to interact with prospective students. Prospective students could leave the question about anything related to curriculum, campus, etc., and current students were able to answer. Or you can take it further and allow one of your member staff to get in touch with the prospective students and to provide more information either via WhatsApp or any other way. So this is just a nice example. And now we move on to 3 case studies that we were able to do in the past year. We try to provide you with some fresh examples, not outdated. We will have a look at 3 of them. Lead gen, in this particular case, for a higher education institution. Then we will have a look at event-driven campaign for K-12 association, and then finally brand awareness campaign that we did for that was specifically for study state consortia from the US. Now, beginning with the first, as you can see here, and this and not just this campaign, but all 3 of them were mostly placed on Facebook using Facebook ads. But typically, we always try to, within our campaigns, use at least 2 or 3 platforms just to see, in the initial stage, what platform is performing the best, and then we focus the most of the budget and time and resources on that particular platform. We and let me just say that from our work in the past few years, we've seen Facebook, of course, in those countries where Facebook is a number 1 or number 2 relevant platform. Facebook is very efficient tool, especially for education industry, because of its cost that, if you compare with some other platforms, is still quite affordable. And again, we repeatedly have educators even telling us that would be fine if we run a Facebook campaign and Facebook campaign only. Anyway, in this particular one, we had a budget of $6,000 for running a campaign specifically in Brazil, where the campaign generated a little over 1,100 leads, out of which we classified 352 leads as qualified. Qualified leads is once we vet the general lead, which we do mostly via calling. But again, I believe this is something that Roberto will explain in further detail. In this particular case, this was a 1-month campaign for both undergrads and graduates. Let's move to the next slide. We did a campaign for the K-12 association that was actually an event-driven campaign where we were tasked not only to run a campaign, but to run a campaign and bring students to 7 virtual student fairs, 7 meaning in 7 different source markets. You can see those source markets on your screen. So we had 2 fairs in North America and then Europe, CS in Turkey, Africa, and Middle East, North Asia, South Asia, and then finally also South America. Here we have cost per clicks and cost per leads in just some of those countries to give you some general understanding, and to see that, of course, cost per clicks and cost per lead are different. And you've got markets that are, of course, more affordable and some that are a little pricier. Typically, the more developed market it is, of course, more expensive the campaign would be, and you would need a little bit bigger budget. Throughout this campaign for all 7 fairs, we generated over 4,500 leads from 35 countries. We had 568 participants across 7 virtual fairs. And you can see the rest of the numbers in terms of the impressions. So how many times the ad was shown to a relevant lead, and how many interactions that there were, including the number of ads that we've used over these 7 campaigns. And the final case study that will show today, the real campaign that happened in the recent period, is the campaign for Study State Consortium from the US. We did a brand awareness campaign. The purpose of this was to put emphasis on that particular state, you know, on the positives of studying in that state, simply to promote the destination as such for students, and bring students and or their parents to the states, to the consortium's website, or so to increase the traffic, or to bring more followers to their Facebook page, etc. So this is the purpose of brand awareness campaigns. What we were able to do is this particular one was very efficient. Cost per clicks and cost per impression were quite low, which is always good, especially if the leads are, or the traffic is relevant and qualified. Here the result of the campaign was that we have something over 9 million impressions and 50,000 unique website views, with actual almost 300 brochure downloads, which is probably one of the best ways how you can make your brand awareness campaign very relevant. So you put some kind of action to that campaign. In this case, it was a download of brochure, and it generated a decent number. I think we can now move to another slide and to another section. Over to you, Roberto.
Thank you, Stefan. Now, in this section, which is the 4th of our webinar, we will be discussing a few additional items that influence conversion, such as pricing policy and culture specifics. Well, pricing is a vital component in any commercial transaction. It wouldn't be different with international education. And here we would like to offer some points to be considered. First and foremost, do you know your competitors? Do you know their prices? Okay, this is the first point to be considered. The second one, do you employ a fixed or a dynamic pricing scheme? And by this we mean, do you have any early bird discounts? Do you have any scholarships? Do you have any campaigns with some financial aid, or any campaign that offers other types of incentives? And if your pricing scheme is set in stone, you might have difficulties gaining market share in some regions, especially those that are price sensitive. Okay. And then the third point here for consideration is, is your pricing policy and is your product mix suitable for the markets that you work with? For example, this is just a practical example that we have dealt in our past webinar about Chinese international education. We see now that more and more Chinese students, after taking an undergraduate program, they want to return to China. So if your institution offers graduate programs, you may have some additional difficulties because of the tendency of this market. Okay, so you should also be aware if the program that you're offering is in line with the demand, or if there is a tendency of decrease. Okay, so this is something important. Moving on, let's talk about culture specifics and how they could influence international student recruitment strategies. And here's a practical case, Brazil. You know, as I'm Brazilian, okay, so I couldn't select another country to talk about, and I see there are some attendees from Brazil, and they'll probably agree with the points that I have brought here, okay? But I will, if you're not Brazilian, I'll give you some homework, okay? When you finish this webinar, you should approach a Brazilian and ask these 3 questions, okay? So the first one, ask a Brazilian about their IBAN bank code. Second one, ask this Brazilian when, how old they were when they moved out from their parents' house. And ask this Brazilian, the third question, if they can buy a luxurious item and pay installments at no interest rate. I'm sure that you will get some surprising answers, okay? What am I suggesting with these random questions? The reason is clear. There are some characteristics that may affect your student recruitment in Brazil. First, few Brazilians are used to making international transfer using their IBAN number. Okay, I live in Europe now. From it's very easy to have access to this IBAN code, but in Brazil I had never heard of it, and I have also seen some bank accounts from account managers, Brazilian ones, that have never heard of IBAN. Okay, so this suggests that you might have to use some payment platform that allows payment with credit card, or even Brazil has a very specific transfer system called PIX. Okay, so if you want to be close to, if you want to understand the culture specific of Brazilian in terms of payment, you should be aware of this. Okay. Now, the second question. In general, Brazilians leave their nest only when they get married. This means that students are not experienced in terms of searching for accommodation, and they will probably expect additional help on this matter. They will expect additional help either from you, from your admissions team, or from an agent, okay? And that's why many local agents sell a full package to Brazilian students, including course, accommodation, insurance, and flights. Actually, this cultural trait, and the third one that I'll be explaining, apply not only to Brazil, but also to most countries in Latin America. And the third question, ask a Brazilian whether they can buy something luxurious and pay monthly installments. You see the next slide here that might surprise you, but I have selected a real example here, an authentic example here from Montblanc website. Okay, if you cannot believe how the installment payment system is part of the Brazilian and also most of Latin America's culture, on this slide, you will see that you can buy a Montblanc luxurious pen that costs almost 6,000 euros and pay in 10 installments at no interest rate. This is just another example that if you offer flexible payment conditions, you are more likely to succeed in the Brazilian market and also in other countries in Latin America. So overall, these 3 examples illustrate the importance for institutions to know the culture specifics before entering a new market. This step will definitely save time and money if well executed. Okay. Now I would like to give the word back to Stefan. Stefan will be sharing a few takeaways.
Thank you, Roberto. Interesting examples indeed, in this case from Brazil. So let's quickly wrap up the presentation and 3 or 4 do's and don'ts of what you should have in mind in or before you actually start establishing your digital marketing strategy. and then let's jump on the questions. We have a few in a Q&A section, and I again encourage everyone to post any kind of question that you'd like us, me or Roberto, to answer. So first, very quickly, let's look at the do's. Basically, on the first point, as Roberto mentioned, it is really important to start with the persona first, and then basically, so knowing who you're talking to, who you want to talk to, and then knowing how, so creating a strategy and an action plan. Then it is important to make sure that you have things ready before you launch the campaign. That includes marketing collateral, follow-up emails. So you have thought it through. Otherwise, this does brings delays. That's what we learned over the years working with many of our partners. It doesn't mean, of course, that the campaign cannot be successful, but it brings unnecessary delays that simply lower the efficiency of the campaign. The third point about the KPIs and tools, I think it's here I would use one thing that we often hear from educators, that those that do not use or do not possess or simply have CRMs in place, that it is really important to have one these days. Everything is digitalized, everything is online, and not only it will make your life and job easier, but also it will equip you with much necessary data. So along with your instincts that are important, you should also have data to make sure that your instincts are right. The fourth point about the lead generation, basically, in other words, the more your prospective student knows about you, and the more interaction opportunities that student has, the more effective it will be, of course. And before we conclude, there are three don'ts that we put here. The first one is about the expectation. So when you do the campaign, don't assume that a combination of simple activity like ads and emails would do the job, would bring conversions. There is much more behind. Automation is important, of course, but there should be a human element within your approach, within your student recruitment process. Without that, it is quite transactional and might not bring as many results as you'd like to. The second point is, I think, quite self-explanatory, so I'm not going to read it. And the third one is that you should not, or you should be mindful of your online reputation. Just like Roberto mentioned, we had a poll about that earlier today, and make sure that all social media interaction points are covered. Facebook comments, private messages on Facebook or other platforms, tags, Instagram comments, etc., etc. These are important things. These are perhaps sometimes little things that we have tendencies to underestimate, but they can have a quite big impact if your prospective student reads through and there is something which might not be, pleasant about what you do, or any kind of negative feedback. Okay, I think that's it. I'd like to thank you for your attention. I hope that it was a little bit longer, I believe, but I hope it was for the benefit of your future digital marketing campaign and strategies. And now let's look at the questions.
Yes, we have two questions from Haley. Haley, thank you so much for sending these questions. So the first question that we have here is, how do you define qualified lead? Stefan has provided really interesting feedback on what we do. First, we vet leads via calling. So we have an experienced caller who really gets the phone and call every lead, and then they ask some questions to measure how interested this student is, if they meet the program requirements, and also if the student expectation can be matched to the institution, because sometimes, for example, in that boarding school campaign, we had some parents asking about language courses, which was not the objective of these boarding schools. So calling is a very important point, and also having the persona in mind. So it's like, what are the program requirements? If you are, especially if you're dealing with price-sensitive markets, if you can offer some type of aid, and if this aid is realistic to the student expectation, and this you cannot do automatically only. Okay, this has to be done via human elements. So it's very important that you're able to vet each student individually. Okay. And then the second question is, how do you track with digital marketing ads, types, leads, and interacting with, and how do you get their information? Well, first, it's very important to get the information, the personal information from the student, from the parents, because then this can be imported to your CRM, and then you can develop a long relationship with this parent, with the student. Sometimes we see that a certain student or parent is not ready to enroll their kid in the short term, but then if you think of a long-term process, these leads can be can turn into quality leads after some time. Okay, so to source the information, you need to create forms. Okay, on that landing page, there is an example of a form. We can also think of Facebook ad forms. Okay, and then Facebook ad forms are very good because you can really customize it. You can put, there are several options of information fields that you can use, okay? There is also Google ad form, but it's not as good as Facebook. So in terms of sourcing the information, you have 3 options. And it's very, Haley, you raised something very important. You need to keep track of the campaign development. So every week or every 2 weeks, depending on the duration of the campaign, you should see the results. Okay, you should optimize the ads. So we should see like which ads are producing better results, and then invest more money there. And we should also see the ads that are not producing very good results, and we should change them. Okay, maybe is it the narrative that is not that could be improved? Maybe it's a picture that you can use a different one. Maybe it's you can change the call to action. So it's very important that you keep track and you look at each ad or each ad set to see the performance. And then any advice on how to keep the forms? Well, we would say that 4 to 5 questions is the limit, okay? Because if you try to get more information, if you have like 6, 7, 8 questions, when the student or the parent sees this, they may feel demotivated, and they will say, okay, it's too much work. I will not respond here. Okay, so you can do this in parts, indeed. So you start with 4 or 5 questions, and then when you send an email, you can add some CTAs to track if this person is has the profile or corresponds to the persona that you are searching. So you can do this progressively also by vetting, via calling. It's also an important step where you can source information. So we have had very good experiences in sourcing additional information that was important to our digital marketing campaigns via this individual approach calling. Okay, KPI, Asli, is key performance indicators. Okay, so it's very important to have these KPIs set before you start the campaign. For example, as Stefan mentioned, in a brand awareness campaign, like the number of impressions is important. The amount of time that the prospective student or parent stays on your landing page, this is also important. And for lead generation, for example, important KPIs are the cost per lead, the cost per click, reach also is important. I think we have run out of the time a little bit. Stefan, if you would like to.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, by the way, if you can move to the last slide so that people can see, those who stayed with us until now, how they can get in touch in case you have any more questions, either now or anytime in the future. Just feel free to reach out to me or Roberto. We'll be more than happy to jump on call and show more data examples, or simply just explain certain areas of digital marketing. It can be complex, it often does, but I think that for those of you who have already had experience, years of experience in this, you know very well that it can be also very beneficial to your recruitment effort. Well, I guess that's it. Thank you again for your attention.